All right, my name's Kelly. I'm an addict. We haven't done this yet, so let's do a moment of silence for the actual still suffers, and follow that with the we version of the Serenity Prayer. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. All right, welcome everyone to the Zonal Leadership Technology Service Symposium, number 1. Yay! Right? In Narcotics Anonymous, when there's a 1, is always going to be followed by a 2, and that is the laws of recovery. Whenever you have a 1, you must always have another until the end of time. So that's a passive-aggressive joke. I was asked a few days ago if I wanted to do a workshop, and I thought I was just coming to help plug wires in and run around and do different things. And when they said, "Would you like to do a workshop?" I was like, there's this one I've always wanted to do, and I went to the I went to our concepts and went to number 8, which says our service structure depends on the integrity and effectiveness of our communications. And I said, this is what I want the title to be: improving ineffective communication in our services. Right? And that has been a topic or an issue that I've been involved with and observed and struggled with probably for the entirety of my recovery. I got clean in 1984, and so I got 37 years. So I've lived my entire adult life in this fellowship. I grew up in this fellowship. I went in the Navy, 6 months clean, in boot camp, and served an entire 21-year career never using. So, so with that, as I talk today about some highly theoretical concepts and ideas, keep in mind that I am damaged from being institutionalized by the United States Navy. And so some of the terms and terminologies and approaches that I take are definitely influenced by that culture that I existed in for a very long time. And it really hasn't become an issue that when I've been a part of service that I began to question our communication and the frustration that I had at myself, right? And for example, it used to be our fellowship communicated in the 80s verbally. Verbal reports. I remember my very first business meeting. I had less than 30 days clean. I was in treatment. The NA meeting was in the treatment center on a Friday night. And I said, I want to be a member of this. So they made me the coffee maker, and I was the best fucking coffee maker that meeting ever had. Right? But they said, we have a business meeting. And there were 4 of us. There was the GSR, the secretary, the treasurer, and the coffee maker. And we were voting on the 3rd edition revised of our basic text. So I got to vote on something I never even read. But that's my beginning in this. Okay, and then I go into the Navy. I get stationed in Bremerton. NA fellowship is small and struggling, and then it has an opportunity to grow, and then it grows. And then we were in a town called Bremerton, and the nearest area service committee was in Tacoma, and Pierce County area, Narcotics Anonymous. And so our GSR would drive to the area meeting and then come back. And his reports would be verbal. And then at some point, we transitioned that when we started, a lot of people did not have typewriters. So if you wanted a written report, you had to be lucky enough that you had somebody that lived in your group or in your area that had a typewriter that knew how to type and then would type it. And making copies was expensive, I think, back then. So, it wasn't until the 90s that when I got stationed in San Diego and was going to groups in San Diego, that I remember going to a group, an NA meeting, and there was a paper copy of an area service report, right? And that's when when computers started to become affordable, home printers became more common, that we started to see written reports. And then who remembers getting area service reports in the mail? All right? Who is still a part of an area service committee that has the guy or girl that still insists on getting this in the mail and yells at you when you say, well, we could email it to you, right? So there's that resistance then to email. But then in the 2000s, early 2000s, transitioning 2005, as email began to catch on, email began to be the form of communication that area service would have to groups, and then it would be the burden of the group to print this stuff out or the GSR and take it to the group. And that's been almost 25 years. And I hate email. Okay. I won't bring it up. I was going to bring it up as a prop. I was going to show you my Gmail account. Okay. And show you that I have 19,000 unread messages.
Oh my God.
Okay.
You got me beat.
All right.
You got me beat.
It hits me like a swamp, and I just like, fuck it. Okay. And then when I go to the zone, or I will say zone meeting, and they'll go, well, Kelly, we emailed that report to you. What the fuck is it in my email? Now, I could get smart and Gmail had a method for a while, and then they got rid of it, and they created labels, right? I liked the folders. Like I could, for a while there, I had things, but you had to be smart enough to figure out how to organize email so that it would come and get, and the level of competency in our fellowship on a general level where everyone is at that same level isn't there, I think, is an unrealistic expectation to put on every GSR, every RCM, every RD, vice chair, subcommittee chairs to know how to get that. So I just wanted to kind of like bring things up to speed to where I was at about 4 years ago when I approached the zone with a topic. And the topic was communication. But I was trying to communicate the concept in a way that it just didn't. I was failing at the communication about me saying that there was a problem with communication. Like I couldn't even get past that point because they couldn't understand. Like, Kelly, just check your fucking email. Just it's there, right? But I kept saying there's a fundamental problem with communication. And so I said, do you understand what I mean by that? So stand by online, stand by. Stand by. Communication. Okay. The basic fundamental understanding of what communication means. Okay. I'm already losing one. I'm already losing. I was trying to communicate to the committee that we have a sender with information, and he's trying to provide that information to someone who needs it. And there's a theory that is associated with this, right? And it's actually mathematical, because it was developed by a computer science major, and this mathematical model, or this theory of communication model, is what was used for computers to communicate to other computers. It's how the internet works. It's how websites work. When I go to Google, and the information that comes up is through this model of communication. And so the basic premise of it is I have information, I put it into a format to send, I send it to the person is able to understand that format that I sent it in and receive that information. There's another word here that's really important, and that's called channels, right? Right now, what I'm doing is what is called broadcasting. Okay, I'm broadcasting this information. I am the sender, and I have a room full of receivers, and the only thing that I can really do is send the information one way. But how often, when I talk to someone after, when they provide feedback to what I said, it's completely not at all what I said. Not at all. Completely misunderstood. Okay. And so so that's the, I thought that was the, so, okay, right here, encode, decode, signal, right? We had a problem right there, right? So when I'm broadcasting to a static group of people, and I never know without feedback if they are receiving the information, if they receive the information, if they understand the information. Okay? So when you look at this model, you said you had an example of ineffective communication. Sure.
I'll give you something. So, how things can get changed. So, my brother was a pilot in the Marines, picking him up there at Fort Dobbins. Same day, my father, for Easter, was coming over message at the tower. So this was the message at the tower. Tell Captain Nunn, which was my brother, that his dad was passing over. My brother gets in the car, hands me a note, and said, "Dad, okay?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I got a note, he passed away." So anyway, so just from the tower to the car, slight miscommunication in the messaging. So,
Correct.
yeah.
So the feedback was your dad died. The message was is I'm flying over. Okay. But without the feedback, you'd never know and you'd think your dad died or his dad had died. So in the fellowship, when we're communicating, the challenges that we have is more often than not, the sender, well, let's say the sender is a regional delegate. And they have a huge responsibility to communicate a ton of information. Is the responsibility to receive and understand accurately all that information is the burden of responsibility on the person receiving it. Or on the person sending it. When we struggle with that question, more often than not, when we look at our problems in communication and service, it's because we really haven't defined where those responsibilities lie. Okay. Another important construct to this theory that I'm not really going to go on because that would go into an even deeper hole that nobody wants to go down, is information. Information is what is being transmitted, right? And just real briefly, because my head is exploding, my ADD is exploding because I have to put this out here, right? The funny thing about information is it doesn't have to be accurate and it doesn't have to be complete in order to transmit. So just because information is sent and information is received doesn't mean that it's accurate or complete. Right. But more often than not, when we get it, we want to assume that we've got it all and it's right. Okay. A lot of times it's based upon personalities. Personality of the sender. Do I trust this person? Do I like this person? Does this person look like me? Does this person believe what I believe? Right? These are all what are called the encode and decode of the sender and the receiver. The internal prejudices or interpersonal connections they have with the people that they're listening to with the information that's being presented. Okay, and so those are what gets filtered. And more often than not, when there's a relationship of trust that is established between the sender and the receiver, it reduces feedback. Feedback, when there is a contentious relationship between the two, feedback increases. What the fuck you say? Okay, that's feedback. I'd say that again. What? Say that again, right? Or I'm hearing what you're saying, but you're completely wrong. And our judgment of what is right or wrong is within this decode field, right? I'm hearing that Nas is all in it to make millions of dollars on the back of a suffering debt addict. Okay. That's the prejudice that will filter the information that's being sent. Okay. Narcotics Anonymous and World Service Office are individuals that have dedicated their life to saving the lives of addicts suffering throughout the world and have made grave sacrifices to the fellowship to ensure that success. It's a filter. Based upon that filter will determine my reaction and my response to the information that's being communicated. Okay? So when we set out to communicate information to the fellowship, what often happens is the information is encoded by the individual's perception or biases of the information that they're sending. It shouldn't be that way. We try to be what's called impartial, but it's really, really hard. I have yet, I can probably count on my hand the number of people that I've met that I, through my own bias, believe are truly objectable or have true neutral objections to the information that they receive and send back. But there's no connection or feeling or loyalty or dedication to what we do as senders for this fellowship. And so with that, it's important to understand that as a sender, we have a responsibility to understand that when we're sending out information or we're communicating information, that there will be different biases, there will be different reactions to the information that we're trying to present and we're trying to send. One of the challenging biases of this encode decode and the channels and the information is complacency and burnout. Okay. In the beginning of being involved in a service position, I'm communicating everything. I'm creating an 8-page report. And when I stand up at the region to give my report, the region, the receivers say, you got 10 minutes. You got 10 minutes. And then over time, when some of us begin to realize that the receivers of the information care less and less and less, we begin to capture and care about less and less information. So it is my opinion, my opinion, that guy, right, that one of the leading contributors to ineffective communication is not a lack of skill or a lack of technology or adapting technology to improve it, to enhance it. It's that the receivers, the people who we need to be informed on, to have a complete understanding and informed from the information we're presenting, are not invested and care as much as we do. That they're, and this is, I'm owning my own stuff, that I begin to care less and less about doing what I'm responsible to do. And I won't go into system theory, right? I'll spare you that, right? But there's a fatal loop that starts to occur. Because when I provide a little less information, nobody provides feedback. Kelly, there's a budget report in this car that's dealing with millions of dollars. The financial budget, the financial report, I've got a question on line 30. Can you answer that? And I go, because as a sender, I'm thinking, who is doing that? Who has that much time to go through line item of the budget? Who's the Carolina? Who's the RD?
Randy.
Randy. We don't have Randy here, right? He would copy and paste the numbers in the cells and the formulas to verify, to recheck their work, and found mistakes, right? Brilliant guy. I commend him, right? But I don't care that much, right? Should I care that much? Absolutely, right? So one of the ways, one of the approaches, and I didn't even really talk about channels, right? And this area right here, if you begin to look at it and you begin to think about it, will blow your fucking mind, right? Right now, this is I'm doing a channel communication one to many, right? And it's one way, right? But let's take a look at a GSR. GSR for a group has one, and he's communicating to a channel of home group members. But at area, it's the other way around. He has channels of communication from the chair, H&I chair, public information chair, treasurer, okay? And then if you go to an RCM has a channel of communication to multiple GSRs, to secretary, to treasurer, chair, H&I chair, public information chair, phone line chair, maybe convention chair, okay? So then you go to region, and that same RCM now has so many layers, so many open communication channels with so much information coming in all at once. They're either sending information or they're the recipient of the information. Now, this is just one channel of this theory of communication. This is one channel. It would not be uncommon in this fellowship for a member of NA to have 40 different channels of communication of this occurring on at the same time. We have to prioritize where do we put our effort? What channel is the most important channel that we need to be listening to and communicating on? Do I need to really care about? No. This is being recorded, right? So, but you saw that reaction there, right? We all have that I don't care channel. I don't care. I'm not telling anybody because I'm supposed to care about them all. It's my responsibility. But we all have our encode decode where we just tune that out. We cut that out. It's too much information. This weekend, yes.
is the sender's responsibility to know what the receiver wants. And then it's the sender's responsibility to know the other wants. And then shouldn't it be the sender who knows what information the receiver wants and how that receiver wants it?
But that's how you've conceptualized how you believe what
Right.
you're communicating
Yeah.
is, all right? But is that uniformly shared amongst everyone who has a responsibility to communicate service information? Okay. So is communication ineffective in our services? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Let me give you a great example because I told them I was going to use this weekend. Okay. We are in a project meeting, right? What was it? Oh, e-literature project. You were there, right? E-literature project for Alabama to get e-literature in the state prison system, right? We're all from the same area. We all know each other, and we're all in the Zoom meeting. When is the group business meeting? That's what we're all saying. It's on the group page. So when is the group business meeting? It's on the group page. Half the room said, no, it's not. Half the room said, yes, it is. Okay. Now this is our home group. This is our home group business meeting. Half the people didn't know when it was because the information wasn't there. The other half in the meeting said, yes, it is. I'm looking at it. It was on the website group page, but not on the Facebook group page. Okay. Channels of communication. Multiple channels of communication that different members go to for information that none of them have a consistent understanding of where to go to get the correct information reliably. Okay, so how can we improve this? That's what the topic is, right? I took you down a rabbit hole of despair and depression, all right? Is there a lifeline here, Kelly, or are we just going to go away calling our sponsor about how hopeless everything we do is? Right? Yes. And this is where, in the beginning, I foreshadowed my military background. Okay. And this is something that is a theory. I wish I can bring to you a grassroots effort that has proven to be effective. All right. But again, I was just asked to do this a couple of days ago. This is something that has been rolling around in this mind for a long time, and I wanted to at least present it and get feedback from people to think this is something we want to talk more about, or something that is just we're going to do what we're doing, right? I don't know, right? I'm hoping that I'm planting seeds and I'm sparking some interest, right? Because I think that this is a solution, or this is a method that could help our fellowship, and that's a communication plan. To begin, that area service, group service, area service should prioritize what is our communication plan. If you look like in the military, okay, my last command was I was on a mobile unit, mobile communications detachment for EOD command. Okay, so we had a comms officer. When we'd go out, we had a communication plan. What are the radios that we're using, right? What is our backup radio that we're using? What channel are we going to be on that we communicate? What are our encryptors? What are the kicks that we're using, and do we have the crypto keys to load those to be able to communicate? Okay. Who has these, and what information are they communicating? Right? And what if we had something like that in an area of service? What page are we going to communicate to home group members where the Zoom ID is of our group business meeting? Is that universally understood by everyone? And the communication plan would have that. There would be a position in service that is dedicated to communication. Right? Do I have your email? Are you getting my email? How often is the information I'm sending to you worth your time to read? Right? Are you opening it? Are you reading it? Do you have questions about the information that I'm sending you? Okay. Is it confusing? Do you have concerns? A communication plan would be for a delegate to have a plan that says, I will call once a month the RCM of every area and verbally ask how they are doing. Are there any issues or concerns? Is there anything that I can do, the region can do to help you with what you're struggling with? Do you have lessons learned that can benefit other areas in our region? That would be part of the plan. Plan is delegate team verbally communicates. Verbal communication is the best channel. Okay? Email communication is a static broadcast, and we never know if they receive it. We never know if they receive it because often we don't get an email back saying, what do you mean, Kelly, why is the spiritual principle of the day motion in the car, but not a regional motion? That would be feedback. That'd be they're reading this, right? They have questions about it. An example would be, do you have issues and concerns? Yes, we've been approached by the county jail. They're not letting us in, but they want to start Zoom meetings. How do we do that? Okay, so now I've reached out. I received information of an opportunity, and I can go and find a solution for this person, because ultimately the information, the primary information that all this is being sent on, right, is our message that any addict can get clean, stay clean, and find a new way to live. Very simple message, right? And how we do that can be better, right? We can be better at how we do this. But in order to be better, we first have to acknowledge within ourselves that we're not doing as well as we can be. I rely too much on just sending my information and not really actively going out and getting the feedback of the information that I've sent to know that they've received it and need help with that. Area service that struggles with hospitals and institutions. We're coming out of this pandemic. Coming out of the pandemic is paradigm shattering in our service structure, right? is completely shattering how we used to deliver our message. And there are, I'll close with this, right? I'll open it. I think there might be some online questions, but I'll open it with this. I was recently in a meeting, and I won't disclose where it was or what it was, right? And they were all communicating about if their existence should be ratified by groups to continue on. And it took the entire meeting to discuss that issue, right? But I did not provide feedback to the group to say, you know what I care about? My area just spent $800 on a billboard. Was that an effective use of funds? Someone in that meeting has experience is if that was successful or not for them. And I needed to know, should we continue? Or is it the experience of other regions that was not effective? That what they found was more effective, and you heard it today. I don't know if anybody was listening, but I heard it when I was in Nassau, and it blew my mind. This person, the feedback that I got from this person was that, Kelly, billboards do not show quantitatively that it increases the number of calls to our helpline. But you know what does? Matchbooks. Matchbooks. There it is. The information that I needed to take back to my area that directly affects addicts who are suffering in Decatur, Alabama. Okay? Huntsville, Alabama. Madison, Alabama. Montgomery, Alabama. Right? That's effective communication. And I think that the plan that the model that I propose may not be something that's like, look, we're not creating another subcommittee. We're not creating another position of service that we can't fill the other 5 that are empty. Kelly, take a drug test after this, right? Because you're high, right? That's okay. That's just something that I presented, right? When it's your workshop on improving ineffective communication, I will sit in my seat. I will sit in the seat, and I will hear your approach, right? But I think effective, and I said I was going to quit. Am I? I got 15 minutes, and then we'll do questions. What I didn't talk about in that concept, and I deliberately avoided it, was integrity. Integrity. Because that is a really sensitive topic in our fellowship. Integrity deals with the validity of the information being sent. And what is the reality that we live in today? Okay? That's why I said about information. That's why I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole about information. It doesn't have to be accurate. It doesn't have to be complete in order to transmit. Right? And so we have a responsibility in the 8th concept to have integrity of our communication. And the integrity of our information is the information that we are attempting to communicate on these multiple channels to an unknown broadcast audience is valid. and not encoded with our own bias. Okay. So, do we have questions in the chat? No? Anybody yelling at me? Any swear words? Yes.
Is the chat open?
Yeah.
I'm Lewis and Danik. So when you say put together a communications plan, could you describe it?
Say again?
When you say that areas should do a communications plan, what does that mean?
Okay, so a communication plan would have, what is the channel that we're going to communicate on? Okay. Who is going to be communicating what information? Who is going to receive it? And then how do we validate that it was sent and received?
So when you're referring to a communication plan, that's what you're talking about.
Yes. So a communication plan would be that area reports are the responsibility of the secretary to be emailed to GSRs, and it is requested that the GSRs send a reply back saying thank you or received, so that we know that it was sent and that it was received.
So let me follow up on that. I mean, it sounds like what you're talking about is what normally you would find in the guidelines or policy. Is that kind of what you're referring to? Because, and how often should it be?
So I'm not a fan of guidelines or policy. But in this, like I'm a part of Madison County area, okay? It's a virtual area that started in January last year. And we have no policy. For the last year, we've successfully provided services to our area, executed and completed several projects with no policy. But I'm not naive to think that it'll always be that way, right? When you have cohesion in a team that work well together, you can get consensus from that team. When the team changes or the team grows and increases, there's only 15 of us, right? If there were 50 of us, it would become ineffective. So this is my point of view on policy and procedures. Policy should be created from a need, not to exist solely because they need to exist, right? We would create a policy that says, since we don't.
Can you repeat the question? Oh, yes.
Well, just tell me and I'll repeat it.
Okay. The question, there are two questions there. You know, when you say create a communication plan, what does that mean?
So the first question is, when I say creating a communication plan, what does that mean as far as policy or procedures? What does it look like? And the second one?
There was a follow-up as to, well, isn't that the same as having a policy?
Right. And isn't that the same as having a policy procedure? When you have a small group of people working together, you can get consensus that in that meeting we all agree that this is the channel we're going to communicate on, and that or if everyone's on Facebook, it's okay to say we're going to use the Facebook group to communicate. Right? We're going to have this group chat, and that's the channel that we all communicate on. Right? But if it's not, if there's one or two people that, I'm not on Facebook, right? I don't do that. Then another channel needs to be where there is a single channel where that information is being sent on. As more channels increase, hospitals, institutions channel, public information channel, phone line channel, meeting update channel, right? What does that channel look like? Who's responsible for it? And what is being communicated on that channel? That can be clearly defined. In the beginning, you know, most of the effort in a small team is single focused on our purpose. But as a committee grows, as an area grows, you will get competing agendas and competing interests, right? And those competing interests and competing agendas are going to be competing for resources. And the resources they're competing for is members volunteering their time to do what they think is important, right? And now I'll get in trouble. I'm so screwed. If you have areas that are struggling, no support for hospitals and institutions, no support for phone lines, no support for public information, but they have a thriving convention committee. Competing resources, right? You have innovative, charismatic individuals that are competing because you need a lot of volunteers to pull off a convention. And in a small area, it has been my observation, and I got a data sample of like 3 or 4, right? And they're all the same way. You visit the area meeting, and what I hear often more than not is there's no H&I, there's no public information, and everybody is in the convention committee. So
Kelly, I'm John, I'm an addict, and I guess I'm almost afraid to ask my question now, but would that communication plan look anything, or could it be modeled after our convention as a dedicated convention information person who channels only convention information? You want to know about Fund the Sun? Then that information goes directly to this person. That person sends that information out to you. Or whatever you want to know about Fund the Sun, that information is channeled directly to this committee chairperson. And she at that point disseminates all information for Fund the Sun convention. You know, times, dates, hotel availability, this, that, and the other. So, you know, that communication plan could possibly be modeled after something like that. A dedicated person who only disseminates, you know, information from area, region, or whatever. And we fund her handsomely.
So that exists at that convention because it was a consensus of the members of that convention that information being communicated was extremely important. Has that type of inventory been done in an area? It won't happen in an area if the area members of the area don't agree that that's important to them. The members of the area would have to go, the information that we have at the area is just as critical and just as important as information that's being communicated about the convention. We want to take that experience and duplicate it at the area so that, because what ends up happening is if the integrity and clarity of the information is being sent, okay, here's my last pet peeve. Okay, communication without feedback, right, on a channel. GSR announcements, can't stand it. My name's Kelly, I'm an addict on the GSR for Air Group. area needs a panel leader for Wednesday night. Elections are coming up. We need an alternate GSR. Right? To my knowledge and to my experience, I don't know of anyone who was inspired by that at a group and went running in a mad sprint to take that panel on Wednesday night or become an alternate GSR. So that's an example of, like, is that communication effective? GSRs, are we changing, are we increasing participation in service based upon that form of channel of communication? My experience is no, right? But what would be effective if we, as a group, we said, we want you as a GSR that before the meeting, during the break, or after the meeting, at least once a week, could you approach one person? Yeah, I'm looking at you. Okay. And talk to them about if they would be interested in alternate GSR. Every time, every position that I've been a part of has been when I've had one-on-one communication with someone and there was an interest in taking that position. Everyone that I've been able to take a position that I held previously was based upon one-on-one information where I was like, I communicated, I got feedback that they were interested, I mentored that relationship, I nurtured that relationship. We had a leadership conference a couple hours ago. That's a part of leadership. Where are we inspiring others to follow along? And that only occurs when there's effective communication. Yes.
But that's hard, Kelly. That takes so much time.
It does. It does.
Yes. And what if the convention committee is completely populated because we would rather do that because it's more fun?
We welcome the newcomer, give them our number, have coffee with them, and then 2 years later, they're doing that service. Members who have already integrated into a culture they're happy with and comfortable with will not leave to do something different. But newcomers, when they get to stay clean long enough, will be a part of that change that you're looking for.
So there's a huge disconnect in communications. That's why I'm sitting here. Do you think that creating that position would solve that disconnect?
Okay, the question was that there is an identification with poor communication. Okay, and do I think creating a position would improve that? Okay, I would say give me data that it doesn't.
Give you data that it doesn't?
Yes.
Ain't been done yet.
Give me data that it doesn't.
Give me data that it does.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Oh.
Implement it,
Do it.
and if it doesn't improve in communication, then it's okay to be wrong, but it doesn't mean that there isn't another solution now. Every success was built on multiple failures. It's okay for me, I could be completely wrong in this, but what it will do is it will engage people in trying something and they'll go, you know, this didn't work, but you know what might work? And there might be 1, 2, 3, 4 different people may try this, 4 failures, but there may be 16 solutions that come from that. There's just one right now. 4 failures would produce 16 other alternate solutions. Out of the 16, bet you one works. Maybe 3 work. And then we're rolling. And then we improve on those successes, right? Those successes produce splinter failures. Well, we didn't see that coming, so we'll adjust that. Let's everybody else know that that didn't work out well. Go ahead, Lewis.
I'm losing. I do want to say that I personally have responded to an announcement trusted serving opening. And that was incidentally, funny story. I was out of region for several years, and I heard in the group announcement that the RD had resigned. So I went back and ran for RD, and so I know that at least for me, it worked. And I tell you the reason why they needed an RD is because they were arguing over a stupid policy. You guys want to hear about
So-
policy?
So how often do you think that happens for group treasurer?
I don't know. I don't know, but it's happening.
Right. I would say an regional delegate position, which is one of in an entire region, to a data sample of 80 treasurers, 80 groups that need treasurers.
Well, it certainly hasn't worked for my region, which has needed an alternate treasurer for 3 years. Jackie
Right.
won't do it.
So not sure if that's a. I mean, I get you're the outlier, but I think the delegate position is a like. If I was in a region, I would do the same thing.
I mean, I had no idea the guy had resigned.
Right. Yes.
Yes, sir, I just want to make sure I received that last bit of information that you sent.
Feedback.
It sounded a little crazy, so what you were saying was that if what we've been trying, if I try something new and it could potentially fail, then we might come up with other fucking ideas from it?
Yes.
Versus just like keep doing what we're doing, which probably hasn't been wildly successful.
Has not succeeded.
Huh.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. I sent the message. I gave you feedback, and we closed that channel.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a great rest of the Saturday, and let me know if this is something you want to hear more about. Do more about, more workshops on. It'd be kind of cool. I'll go really scientific next time too.
Oh, yes. Please.
More arrows and boxes, bars.
You haven't got it?
You get where you